Hey everyone, and welcome back. So a Russian colonel just issued a terrifying threat to the United States as far as a possible World War III nuclear war goes. In today's video, we're going to be covering everything that you need to know. But before we go ahead and dive into it for today, if you would like to receive up to $200 in free stock in a pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link to Robinhood. All you have to do is once you click on that link is just sign up for a free account and then simply link your bank account. You do not even have to make an opening deposit. At that point in time, Robinhood will be sending you one free stock worth all the way up to $200. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dive into it for today with this article here from the Mirror, where once again a Russian colonel just came out and issued a terrifying World War III nuclear threat to both Britain and the United States. What is this all about? We're going to be diving into this article here once again by the Mirror. So they say that Russia has warned that any U.S. move greenlit by Donald Trump to supply long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine could trigger a Kremlin declaration of nuclear war against both the United States and Britain. Is this a real possibility? Now they go on here to say that new intelligence shows that Washington is preparing to bolster Kyiv with enhanced targeting data for strikes on Russia's energy networks while pressing NATO allies to also follow suit. The U.S. is also weighing the provision of Tomahawk and Barracuda missiles for deep incursions into Russian territory, a move seen as retaliation after Moscow rebuffed Trump's peace overtures. So over Trump's first term, and even whenever he was running into office, we saw him sort of mix. He was probably more so 50-50, sort of right in the middle, that Ukraine and Russia had to both work together to end this war. But slowly, since he, over the first 10 months in office or so, he's really kind of slowly soon realized that maybe it's more so Russia's fault, that Russia is not working towards peace as much as Ukraine, at least in Trump's mind, and he's more so getting on the side of Ukraine at this point in time and against Russia. And because Russia is now seeing that, they're now seeing this as a threat, and they're warning the United States here, like, if you're supplying any more weapons to Ukraine, this could result in a larger scale possible World War III nuclear war. Now they also say that the agreed targets would allow a stepping up of Ukraine's already successful strikes on Russian refineries, pipelines, power stations, and other infrastructure to cripple Vladimir Putin's oil supplies and revenues. Now, if you're not exactly sure what exactly a Tomahawk missile is, why exactly would this be significant for Ukraine to obtain such a weapon from the United States or England? Why would this be significant? What could they do with it? We asked ChatGPT to sort of explain this. They said that Tomahawk missiles are long-range, all-weather subsonic cruise missiles used by the United States and its allies, primarily for precision strikes against high-value or heavily defended targets. Here's a breakdown of what they are and why providing them to Ukraine would be significant. So you can see the full name, type, range, speed, launch platforms, warhead, and guidance up there. And they also say that Tomahawks fly low to avoid radar detection. That is very significant and are highly precise. They were heavily used in past U.S. conflicts such as the Gulf War, Iraq, Syria, and Libya for striking fortified, strategic, or time-sensitive targets. Now, if you're in the military, you know a lot about weapons, perhaps you could leave a comment below kind of giving some more guidance on the significance of a Tomahawk missile. Why would it be significant to provide these types of weapons to Ukraine versus the other types of weapons that have already been provided to Ukraine from the United States and other countries? But they go on here to say that military analyst Colonel Igor Karachenko, editor-in-chief of Russia's National Defense Journal, singled out Tomahawk, which has a range of around 1,500 miles, saying such a move will trigger World War III. He claimed that such strikes cannot be carried out only by Ukrainians, but would require U.S. or British military involvement to hit targets inside of Russia. He said, quote, "From the point of view of international law norms, this is a casus belli," he told Redovoka. Accordingly, Russia will have to respond with retaliatory strikes, and obviously not only on the territory of Ukraine. So he makes it very clear there that Ukraine and Ukraine alone would not be able to carry out these attacks with such a weapon, that they would require assistance outside of Ukraine, whether that be from the United States, whether that be from England. They would require outside support. And if such a thing would happen, he is making a pretty clear threat there that if the United States intervenes in helping Ukraine use such a weapon on Russia, that World War III pretty much would be imminent. Leave your thoughts and comments below on that. And they go on here to say that he told Moscow city-owned TVC channel that, quote, Tomahawk is a high-precision weapon and can be used in both conventional and nuclear warfare. Therefore, the very fact of transferring such weapons to Ukraine will mean that the United Kingdom or the United States, either which can transfer such weapons to the Zelensky regime, will automatically enter into war against the Russian Federation. Now, whether a United States or Great Britain war against Russia would mean a world war, it could be separate, could be the U.S. entering the war against Russia, but not necessarily, the entire world entering in some sort of war. But you'd have to think that it's pretty much imminent. If the U.S. or one of the NATO countries also enters into war with Russia, you'd have to think that eventually, over the next couple of years, that we would see numerous other countries also enter the war as well, and you'd have to consider that to be World War III. Now, they also say that there has been no suggestion that Tomahawks would be a nuclear armed, but Colonel Korotchenko has warned that Russia is giving itself a quote, free hand to respond in any way necessary, including its entire arsenal of conventional and nuclear weapons, to eliminate such a threat if it becomes real. He also called for immediate action ahead of any Western deployment of Tomahawks, demanding the lights go out in Ukraine. He said, quote, the Zelensky regime must be deprived of light and fuel, then it will fall to its knees and crawl to sign a peace agreement on Russian terms. What exactly those terms are, we aren't exactly for sure. Now, they go on here to say that speaking about a Tomahawk deployment, Putin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said earlier this week, the question remains who can launch these missiles, even if they end up in Kyiv regime territory. He asked, can only Ukrainians launch them, or will the American military do so? Who is assigning targeting to these missiles? This requires a very thorough analysis. So again, very, very interesting stuff here. Is this something that the United States is seriously considering actually supplying Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine? Is this something that, they're very much on the verge of doing? And if they do, in fact, supply these missiles to Ukraine, is it going to be the United States actually using them, shooting them off? We'll have to wait and see how everything unfolds. Now, as far as World War III, are we actually on the verge of this happening? We actually have a military analyst in Michael Clark with Sky News who is covering whether or not World War III, whether or not we're actually close to this thing actually happening. Let's go ahead and watch.
Lots of people ask whether we are already in the first stages of a World War III, but no, we're not. A World War III will be a global conflict, and we're nowhere near that at all at the moment. However, we are very much in the beginning of a militarized conflict in Europe, and so the possibility of a European war is becoming greater all the time. And Eliza Manningham-Buller, the previous director of MI5, said she was inclined to agree with those who said that Russia has already declared war on us in a hybrid capacity. The idea that we're already involved in confrontation with Russia is based on a series of air incursions recently. So first of all, 19 drones into Polish airspace, then a drone into Romanian airspace, then very seriously 3 MiG-31 fighters in Estonian airspace, and then a series of drone irregularities over Denmark, which have been closing airports in Denmark and in Oslo in Norway. This pattern of incursion is going on, and it comes on top of several other things as well, such as hovering above our pipelines and our internet cables, muffing them out, evidence that the Russians are trying to recruit young people in order to commit acts of sabotage. The Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, said that all of this was hybrid sub-threshold warfare, and both of those phrases are really important.
De fortsætter deres angreb, også selvom der er nogen, der tror på en fredelig løsning. Og vi ser altså en række hybride angreb, cyberangreb, sabotage, forsøg på sabotage fra russisk side.
Hybrid means that it covers everything, every aspect of government, from social media through the funding of groups and political parties abroad, through what the Navy does, what the Air Force does, what the Army is doing. The Russians use every aspect of their government to undermine, as they see it, the West European body politic. And it's sub-threshold because they go right up to the point of organised violence and then stop. So it's not actually violent, except in the case of some assassination attempts and sabotage attempts. But this hybrid sub-threshold campaign has been building up over 10 years. And since the beginning of this phase of the Ukrainian war in 2022, it's built right up. And now it's bigger than it has ever been in the last 80 years. At the moment, all of this seems as if the Russians are setting the agenda, and it's all very one-sided. But Western politicians are saying increasingly now that we will respond.
Make no mistake, if we need to confront planes in NATO airspace without permission, then we will do so.
That raises the question, are we on the verge of a general European war? No, we're not. Not necessarily in the next 5 or 10 years, but we are very much on the verge of a military confrontation with Russia of some sort in the next 2 to 3 years.
So according to Clark, he believes that we are in fact not actually on the verge of World War III. This thing could be actually several years away. In my mind, I'm not sure whether or not I actually believe if that's correct or not. We'll have to wait and see how things go. But leave your thoughts and comments below. Do you think that World War III is going to happen within the next year? Is there a time frame? Or do you think nothing is actually going to end up happening? Hopefully not. We definitely do not want to enter into another world war, especially with nuclear arms being as available as they are throughout numerous countries. But again, leave your thoughts and comments below. But that's all I have for today's video, and I will see you in the next one.